Hello, RP gamers, and welcome to another episode of An Hour to Impress. Today we'll be taking a look at a game that mixes action RPG combat with real-time strategy. It's a game I really wish I could say I loved, but unfortunately it has more than a few problems that just don't quite click with the way I play games. And that game is...
Megamagic, Wizards of the Neon Age.
Yeah! Listen to that techno. If you thought Saturday Morning RPG was the quintessentially 80s game, Megamagic just blows it right out of the water. And that's enough of that. So the whole premise of Megamagic is equal parts bizarre and amazing. It takes place in some sort of permanently 1980s infused world filled with neon and things like that, including a magic called Neonmancy. Yes, that's Neonmancy, as in neon magic. And we... Hold on, wait. What the hell is that thing? No, like seriously, what is that thing? Is it like a sentient thought bubble or something? Is it like a talking plume of smoke? Why do I want to squeeze it? Anyways, let's get back on track here. Like I was saying, the premise of Megamagic is weird, but it's actually surprisingly compelling. The game opens with a father leading his two sons to safety in what seems to be some sort of attack. And then it jumps 10 years later to see those two sons all grown up. And there's enough information in just that opening scenario to raise a number of questions. There's characters that are introduced that seem like they could be equal parts villainous and noble. And you really don't get a clear sense of where the story's going, but you definitely want to find out. And that's actually what kind of bugs me the most about Megamagic, is that I love everything about this game from a style perspective, but it's the gameplay that it just doesn't click with me. Like I said earlier, it's a mix of real-time strategy and action combat, and while on the surface I love the idea of the blend of it, it's just the control scheme just does not seem to work for me. So there's two facets to the combat. On the one hand, you have your little grim creatures, which are basically summons that you can bring out, and they can act independently of your main character. The other aspect is your main character himself, and you can move him around using the WASD keys, and you can right-click to cast different spells. And while each facet works really well on its own, trying to use them in conjunction with each other can be really frustrating. It's very difficult to try to develop a tactical appreciation for the battleground with your Grims while at the same time trying to move your main character around and shoot at things like an action game. But hey, maybe that's just me. It could be that this game just doesn't click with me for some reason. I will say that the controls are actually really responsive. It's just the awkwardness of it just doesn't vibe with me the way that most games would. But thankfully there is more to Megamagic than just combat, as you can see from this little clip where you can watch me absolutely sucking at dodging laser bolts. And it isn't just dodging laser bolts. Megamagic actually uses its levels in a lot of creative ways in order to spruce it up and prevent it from falling into that trap that so many games fall into, where it's just one combat sequence after another. In fact, of all the things I could say about Megamagic, this is by far the most positive. Quality level design is very difficult to find these days, especially in indie games, which so often want to jump on the procedurally generated bandwagon, which is so much easier to do. So finding a game that actually takes the time to build its levels carefully and actually does a really good job of them is quite refreshing. I know a lot of the games that I've showcased so far with An Hour to Impress have shared this in common, but it is sadly a very rare trait among indie games nowadays. And I'm going to put a hold on that train of thought for a moment just to say that this particular scene is quite possibly the biggest dick move in a gaming story I've ever seen. After combating swarms of zombies to get to him, literally a second after you leave, your uncle is devoured by said zombies, and you can't go back to save him. Dick move. Anyways, getting back to what I was saying about the environments and the level design, one thing that Megamagic does quite frequently, at least in the second half hour of the gameplay, is introduce puzzles. Now, to be fair, at the start here, they're really simple puzzles, not that challenging at all. But I imagine as the game goes on, they'll probably get a little bit more interesting and a lot more difficult to solve. Most of these puzzles make use of your grims and have you move them in some way in order to complete an objective. The first example, which you'll see here, just has you move your grims onto these specific spots, and that causes the way to open up. This seems to be the most common form these puzzles take, and you'll see it pretty frequently throughout the first hour of the game. A little further in, though, you'll find something that you can probably more aptly describe as an actual puzzle. In this little bit, you need to move your grims in such a way as to redirect the flow of these ants or ladybugs or whatever the heck they are, so that they'll eat the bushes that block your path. This is another area where controls kind of get in your way, because while you can control your main character with the WASD keys and have a little bit more precision in your movement, controlling your grims is all point and click. You have to point them to a specific spot and they move there. So fine-tuning your adjustments and stuff like that is a little bit more difficult and requires a lot more jerky and janky movement than you would typically find in an RPG. I would have really liked to see some sort of target lock system or something like that to make the game flow a little bit better and make it a little bit easier to control your grims in conjunction with your main character. But when you get to puzzles like this, I can kind of see why they didn't. Even so, I would have liked to see some sort of compromise made that would give you the best of both worlds. I've played other games that mix action and RTS elements together, like Little King Story or Overlord, and both of those games kind of do it better. They give you a nice balance between the two that works a lot smoother and more easily than what Megamagic does. As the game moves on a little further, you can see some other aspects of the level design that kind of stand out. Certain paths in the game, like this one, give you laws that you can't break. In this case, summoning grims is forbidden. I'm sure as the game goes on, there'll be more paths like this with different laws to follow. And it adds a bit of strategy to the game that I kind of like. It reminds me a bit of Final Fantasy Tactics Advance. The law system in that game was kind of controversial, but I really liked it. I thought it was clever, and it really made you think hard about what actions you would take. There are even puzzles like this one where you have to summon a grim across an area where you can't reach in order to create a path. And again, this is another area where the controls really get in the way. Trying to push a box with a point-and-click character is really difficult, far more difficult than it needs to be. The last type of puzzle I encountered is also kind of the best one, and that's the boss fights. I only came across this one boss fight towards the end of the first hour, but it was pretty impressive, and hopefully it's a sign of things to come. In any case, I have no intention of talking over this whole boss fight, so why don't you just watch it, enjoy it. It's actually kind of cool. It was kind of an easy fight, but I thought it was kind of neat in any case. There's really only one thing left to show you guys, and that's the progression system. It didn't really unlock until the last few minutes of this 1 hour playthrough, so I don't really know a lot about it yet, but it definitely does seem like it has potential. Basically, all those shiny little things that you saw me picking up, or at least the ones that aren't pink, can be spent in order to research new spells and new grims. In order to research a new spell, you need to first find a scroll somewhere in the world, and in order to research a new grim, you first need to fight enough of them to learn everything you can about them. Once the spell has been learned, you can add it into your skill bar. Going by the UI, it seems like there's about 20 different spells you can learn in the game, along with 16 different grims you can learn to summon. That should give players a pretty wide variety of playstyles as the game goes on. As I said before, Megamagic seems like it's a really cool game that, for whatever reason, just didn't click with me. And it's a shame because there's so much about this game that I really, really like. Hopefully my personal distaste for the gameplay doesn't turn you off from giving it a shot, because if this game does click for you, I can imagine it being a lot of fun, and it really does seem like the developers took a lot of time to craft the world. Megamagic Wizards of the Neon Age is available on Steam for a regular price of $16.99 Canadian. As always, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them below. Thanks for watching.
Megamagic, Wizards of the Neon Age.
I swear to God, that'll never get old.